When I say interesting and engaging panel discussions, I mean it. Let's start with our panel discussion. Our first panel for today discusses India is doing a commendable job in getting more and more women from rural areas, opening bank accounts and becoming financially independent. The contradiction, however, is women working in the corporate sector. They may be financially independent, but are they financially savvy? Not necessarily. Our first panel discussion tries to explore the financial inclusion playbook of women in corporate India. And for the same, I would like to welcome our panelists on stage. Please welcome Ms. Ritu Gangrade Arora, Country Head India Allianz Services, Ms. Manisha Girotra, CEO Moelis India, and Ms. Amisha Vora, Chairperson and MD PL Capital Group. Welcome to all the lovely ladies. Thank you so much for joining us here. And to moderate the session, may I request V. Keshav Dev, Executive Editor, Fortune India, to please join us on the dais.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to kick off the first panel discussion this evening, and with three powerful ladies from the world of financial services. And what better a topic than financial inclusion. So let me just hit the road running. Financial inclusion as a concept has been prevalent for some time now, but it formally entered the banking lexicon in the year 2006 when the RBI mentioned it as part of their annual policy. And it's 2 decades now. How do you see the financial services industry building on this big opportunity? Manisha, if you could start off first.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Actually, this question should be answered by Arundhati, who's sitting there, rather than me. She really championed that cause. But I think we've come a long way, in the whole financial inclusion efforts, not just financial inclusion for women. I think we're the only country which lifted 250 million people above the poverty line in a decade, thanks to the JAM Trinity. So I think we've done very well. And that couldn't have happened if we hadn't had to have women included in that process too. So, directly opening accounts for women, having transfers go directly to women, interest rate differentiation that was given to women for loans, etc., I think has helped a lot. And if you speak to the average woman in all different classes, they do talk about real strengthening of their power and flexibility that they have to set up businesses, or to, just the way that they are conducting the incomes in their house, because they have access to that income directly now. Earlier, as you know, all the transfers went to the men, and a lot of those were wasted. So I think we've come a long way. Am I happy with the journey? No, because, as we'll talk about, a lot of these accounts are still being operated by men, and, a lot of learning and education needs to be done. But I think we've still come a long way from where we were 20 years ago, and I'm quite happy.
Ritu, what's your take on this?
Financial inclusion definitely has come a long way, just like Manisha said, especially since there's more money in hands of women, more democratization of financial decisions. Women were always central to decisions, but now they're more actively coming forward. But insurance is slightly different bastions, because for insurance, you need to have an insurable interest, and that's a complete reflection of how many women are actually earning. And hence, I think there's a long way to go still in terms of more women distributing, more women purchasing, and more women participating in insurance and protection and savings and wealth creation decisions for their family. So some distance to cover.
Amisha,
but banking leads the way.
You've been the one who made the most of it, I think.
Let me take the market perspective. So over these 2 decades, now women mutual fund folio holder, unique, is accounting for almost 24%. And their assets are accounting for 36%, which I think is really commendable. And also in terms of, if you see trading accounts, women account for almost 28%. I'm sure there is a challenge here that whether all the decisions are taken by them, or maybe the name is taken by their husbands, but still it gives them power because that asset is in their name.
But that's, that question I wanted to come to a bit now, since you've hit on straight onto that. Let me get, being a passive investor, just having the name account in your name, does that really mean empowerment? Or is it just they are being used
No, it doesn't mean fully empowerment. It does mean partial empowerment. But what really needs to be done is from family perspective, from couple perspective, that in any uncertainty of life, they will not really know how to use that. So I always say that what is really needed is that family wealth creation or family asset protection decisions should be discussed jointly, maybe implemented by anyone, but should be discussed. And that applies to the women child that you are growing. It applies to your daughters also. And of course, it applies to your partner. That's where the empowerment will really come.
Manisha, have you seen a change in the way women are taking charge of their own finances? Because anecdotally, you still hear that it's the men who are taking control of the finances.
Unfortunately, what you say is very right. I agree with Amisha that it's great that actually assets are being created in the name of a woman. That's great, right? If you have a house which is created in the name of a woman or a mutual fund, she may not have full control over it, but in times of uncertainty, that is an asset she owns, or in times of stress, etc., she can have, it's her signature, so she can have a say. But what's more worrying is that, as you rightly said, women who are literate, who are financially independent, are not taking their own decisions. And that stems from our years of patriarchy, our years of how work is done in Indian households, which is that the work outside the house is the man's responsibility and the work inside the house is the woman's responsibility. And unfortunately, that's not changing fast enough. We are just not taking ownership for our financial decisions. And you have to start very young. It's a muscle. Financial investment, like everything else, is something you will only learn by doing. It's not as if men who are making the investments are not making wrong decisions. They're losing a lot of money, but they just have that confidence and they think it's just what they have to do, so they continue doing it. While we women, because we are perfectionists, we're like, we don't know this and we don't do enough of it, and you would know this, Amisha, and then it just feeds on itself, right? As you get the man takes charge, you just don't take charge, including your own salary accounts, something that's run by the man, and I'm just not seeing that changing fast enough through urban women, through educated women, and Amisha should talk more about it because she witnesses it, but in the community of women that including that I live in, which is investment bankers, where you're advising clients on how to run mergers, acquisitions, what to do for their corporates. I mean, those are really serious decisions. And you ask them privately over a lunch that, are you managing your own portfolio? And the answer is, no, I don't have the time. I'm managing the kids, I'm managing the family, I'm managing the in-laws. So this just takes a back seat, and it's just then comes into a situation where it becomes too late for the woman to learn, and it gets awkward, and it just spirals out of control.
Ritu, is it a mindset issue? Yeah.
Let me add a perspective there, and slightly different, though I concur with what you say. It's about the glass, how empty and how full. Clearly, it's not as full as we would like it to be, but it is getting fuller. And I think that is something one needs to acknowledge. But to make it fuller, I think two things are important. One is them having the resources and the finance in their account, which, as Amisha said, they are more and more now. The other is understanding of it, the literacy. And I think that is something that could be addressed. The regulators are working hard, and I think as an institution, large institutions, we need to contribute in improving the financial literacy in general, and more specifically for women. It is only when you understand the product, when you understand financial markets, when you understand the different saving products available, is when one could get more empowered and make those decisions. So I think we will be able to do more on financial literacy.
So, Amisha, do you agree with that? It's literacy, or is it the sheer task of managing finance and getting it wrong that puts women on the back foot?
So yes.
Considering that a lot of urban women who are working in offices, who know what finance is, why is that?
I agree. To a great extent, it is a little bit of inertia. Women still don't compete. And when two women meet, we still don't talk. How big is your portfolio? What did you take? How much money you made? Do we ask these questions? We don't. Which sari are you wearing? Which designer are you wearing? That's where the mindset is reflecting at any age group. The moment we women start asking, where did you really make your last money? Where did you invest? And things will just change. But my one, judgment is that we all are fearing AI. But AI will be the ultimate empowering thing. Because it's just not accumulating all something which is written somewhere. It adds or acts as your financial advisor also if you prompt accordingly. So anybody in any language, simplest, also can ask a ChatGPT, what should I do? I'm stuck here, I have my insurance policy, but I have XYZ problem. How should I resolve it? So they find a way. And the way now, maybe one more anecdote I'll give, in some of the educated women, they've learned, they've forgotten the art of cooking. But equally
But neither
at
have
that
to learn
time,
the art of managing finances, right? So that's
correct.
a double whammy.
But equally at that time, men has learned because they go abroad to study and they learn how to cook. How the art has changed, right? I feel accordingly in next 10 years, you will find that women will really show their power in how to create wealth. I'm extremely optimistic about it.
Okay. Manisha, when financial inclusion has been spoken of, it is all about access to, the fathers and the poorest using technology. And obviously what began as, opening bank accounts for the poor, post 2-3 committees, including the Rangarajan and the Mahanti committee reports, it widened the basket to complete the entire financial products. But considering that today women account for 48% of your population, contribute 18% to the GDP, and they're expected to propel India's growth further by adding 30% more to the GDP growth, is there a need to further define the financial inclusion as it stands today with an emphasis on women empowerment?
Sure, I think there is always room to emphasize more, but I think what needs to do more is that we need to get better with execution. We need to educate our women more. We need to create more micro-entrepreneurs. We've created this whole startup ecosystem in India, which has done so well. I think we need to take the same knowledge and learnings to the women in rural India, in smaller towns, create small micro-entrepreneurs, empower them with loans, with assets, etc. And I think that's really where financial inclusion will succeed. Because the policies are there. All the policies are there. All the banks have been, especially the state-owned banks, have been asked to collaborate. Insurance companies are trying to create products, especially for women, I think, and you should talk a little bit about that. So all of that's being done. But I think the awareness needs to improve. The implementation, as Amisha mentioned, with AI, we should, and with large language models, we should actually communicate to women in different languages, empower them, help them in execution. I think that's the last mile is where we need to do much better rather than create more policies, more notes, more. I think that's done. There's a lot of awareness. I think the real challenge is now the execution and the awareness at the grassroots level, which needs to improve more and more. The woman has the account, but she must be taught how to, execute it herself. Go to the bank yourself. With fintech companies, you don't even have to go anywhere. There's last mile connectivity. So I personally feel from all my interactions with a lot of microfinance companies, with a lot of gold finance companies, that what you need to do is to make the women more confident in the ease of how of executing all these products has become and make it like a muscle memory, like I said before.
Ritu, you agree with the view that you don't need to further refine the whole financial inclusion roadmap?
For sure, one needs to continue to improve on a good journey that's begun. I would again look at it slightly differently in the sense that Aadhaar has changed a lot of things in terms of financial inclusion in the country. UPI took it a step further. Now our smartphones with the multiple apps are making a significant difference, and they are empowering not only education, easy adaptability, reach. It has made everything much more easy, and I hope that will transform because that is not just an education tool, it is a tool through which you can invest, few clicks, very easy. And I think more and more comfort is developing. And I think one or two right financial decisions in the beginning gives the courage to go on further.
Right. And Amisha, financial inclusion lays emphasis more on credit delivery rather than asset creation. And what's your take on where the emphasis should be on? Because considering that household debt as a percentage of GDP is rising, should the emphasis be more on asset creation, and that kind of feeds into your business that people continue to invest openly
See,
PAN
as we
accounts?
say that we will be the fifth largest and third largest economy, and maybe we will be, I'm sure we will be a developed economy. So definitely what is untapped is the women workforce. And that means that more and more women, of course they are educated now. No parent differentiates in education. Of course in work they still. But as that unfolds, women will have their own income. And that's why the more and more asset creation by women workforce is going to be the game changer. They do need the microfinance loans directly. And that last decade we achieved. We opened their accounts. We give them direct benefit. Now the UPI is allowing them to transfer their money. Maybe they learned deposits. They also maybe learned a bit of insurance because we were giving across India, but incentive in that. But what they really now need to learn is the asset creation. And also I would say wealth creation, because that's what ultimately decides the India's growth also. The savings, when it gets channelized to investments, markets, that's where the ultimate virtuous cycle happens. So that's what I think will happen and is I'm looking forward to.
Manisha, are you seeing that trend happening? The asset creation cycle is at its full
Yes,
flow?
I think I'm seeing that happening, including in wealthy families and business families today. You're seeing asset creation in the name of women separately. You're seeing businesses being carved out, especially in the name of women coming out and running businesses, and there's Devita there who runs a hardcore business, right? So you're seeing a lot of women like that who are running hard-nosed businesses. And that's great, because I think what the country needs is role models, whether it's in terms of just savings and, the kind of conversations about, we all looked at Rakesh Jhunjhunwala as the greatest
He's an
financial
outlier.
Yeah. We need a woman financial investor who we look up to like that, right? So, and then it trickles down. So whether it's in that, whether it's in businesses, I think we need role models so that other women can aspire and say, look, this is real. And also not just aspire, it creates awareness. Today women in wealthy business families should know that if they're married off, it's not like they lose access to all the wealth that the family has created. They are also entitled to a business there. And you're seeing that across businesses, even industries like IT services, etc. You're seeing women running it today. You see Roshni Nadar running HCL. So I'd like to see a lot more of these happen, because I know that the trickle-down impact is enormous, right? Because I think the patriarchy has convinced us for so many years that these are not our domains. So when you see someone actually going out there and achieving all those things that you never thought were a woman's domain, you start to think yourself and you start to challenge yourself. And yeah, so whether it's assets being created, whether it's businesses being created in women's names, I hope to see far more of those happen.
We are just to the close of the session. So one piece of advice that you would like to give to women who are entering the workforce or already in the workforce, one personal finance advice. Ritu, if you could start off with.
Start early, make your own decisions. Like I said, 1 or 2 decisions, once you get right, the confidence builds. And so diversify your risk, which gives you again the confidence that couple can go wrong and still you will not be turtle up. So start early, invest in many different assets, try it all out before you know what's your forte.
And should they play safe?
When you start young, actually you don't need to play safe. You should try everything out. There's time to get safe.
Manisha, what would your advice be?
I think it's similar. My point of view is that, look, if you don't bring anything to the table, then you're not going to get a seat at the table. We all say as women, we should get a seat at the table. SEBI's done the mandatory board requirement, but you must bring something to the table, whether it's as a board member, whether it's as an investor. And the only way you're going to do that is if you start young, start early, get knocked on the head, make your mistakes, learn from that, get up again, challenge yourself. So especially to working women, my message is please start young, please start early. The salaries are good in India today. You can make the difference, through SIPs, etc. You can make small investments. So start young and bring something to the table. Don't just ask for a seat to the table if you haven't earned it.
Should they consult their partners or their financial advisors? Why?
I used to do that earlier, and then I figured Sanjay makes more mistakes than I do. So he just didn't talk about it, and I talked about it and felt so terrible about it. So by all means, consult. Look, if you're starting young and you don't know enough, of course you should consult. It could be a fellow colleague, it could be a father, mother, or whoever it is, of course consult, but eventually remember the buck stops with you. It's your decision. Own it and be proud of it.
Amisha.
So a few years back, we ran a campaign, markets are equal. Whether you are a man in invest or whether you are a woman in invest, you make the same gain or same loss. Markets don't treat you differently. Why do you treat yourself differently? So that's the first message I would give, that just be very sure about yourself. And I wouldn't say I am at whatever age, or somebody is whatever age. You cannot start early. But most important is to start today. Wherever in your journey you are, if you're not started, start today. Because tomorrow has never come for anybody for anything. So it's all about today.
Tomorrow never comes, start today. That's the message. Thank you, ladies, for taking time out and for an invitation.